Hey guys, so first I want to just take the time to thank all of you who have subscribed to my channel and continue to support me with your likes, your comments, all that good stuff. And I also want to take the time to welcome those of you who are new to my channel. I hope you decide to become a part of our little YouTube family, as well as subscribe so that you can stay tuned for all the videos that I post. I usually post on Sundays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, okay? So feel free to do that. Let's go ahead and get into the video. Now, one thing that I want to make sure that everybody understands is the fact that this video is not meant to be any type of thing bashing locks, right? I love my locks and I think that they're awesome, but I want to make sure that coming into the lock journey that everyone has realistic and healthy expectations for what to expect in this journey. Now, I already did a video a while back talking about the five of the many benefits of locks, so I'll make sure the card is somewhere up here if you want to check that out. And so all I'm doing is making sure that we are honestly looking at both sides of this experience, okay? Excuse me. Got allergies, guys. It's a mess. All right, so let's jump into that now. The first thing you need to understand that a possible downside of having locks is that your locks can get heavy, okay? It's not saying that every person is going to deal with that, but that depending on how your journey is started, your product use, the cut of your locks. I mean, there's a number of things that could lead you long-term to have your locks being heavy. And of course, a consequence of having heavier locks is pain in your neck, I'm sure headaches, as well as possible breakage at your roots because your locks no longer can be supported at the base, I mean, just showing you like here, my locks are pretty much reasonably kind of going from small to large. But if you have any locks where it's really large and you've got this little tiny base, you need to understand that that could also be contributing to the heaviness because there's more tension and pressure on your roots, okay? So keep that in mind. Now, the second thing we have to understand as a possible downside of locks is going to be buildup. Once again, this is not something that has to happen, but we have an increased likelihood of having buildup in our locks because of the structure of our locks. Now, showing you one of mine, this lock is pretty solid, especially once this is the part that's definitely fully locked. You see, I can squeeze it, but it's solid. I don't know how else to say it. And the more solid your locks are and the more mature they are, the less like pores and openings and gaps that exist in your locks. And what that means is that unless you have water soluble products, the likelihood of product being able to get back out of your hair during normal washes and things like that is very low. The more products that you use, the more that you're going to have to clarify and possibly at some point even end up doing a soak to make sure all the product is getting out of your hair, right? So, I mean, that's one of those things that I think ahead of time we need to make sure that we talk about strategies to do more for. And this week I'm actually going to be posting that as the last segment in my natural hair basics is going to be product use. So stay tuned for that. But really just understanding that buildup is something that you can deal with and can lead to your locks being heavy, can lead to your locks just not smelling very good, as well as at some point them breaking off, okay? Really keep that in mind. Now, we also have limited styling, and it's not to say that you can't do anything at all, but especially early on, maybe your locks are really short. Maybe you started with comb coils and you can't really do a lot of maneuvering for risk of your hair unraveling, right? For some others, though, they just might not have adapted to the fact that some of these styles are going to look very different on your locks. So it's not that you can't do these styles on your locks, but they're just going to look very different than what you might get when you do this on loose natural hair. Okay, so there's different things to consider with that. And it's an adjustment for sure, but I've learned definitely to appreciate, the way that twist outs and braid outs look on my locks compared to what they used to look like on my loose natural hair. So that's part of that process. Now, the fourth thing that we have to look at is that at a certain point in your lock journey, air drying is no longer an option, okay? It just is what it is. Fight me, okay? Because the fact is that as your locks mature more, they're going to hold water in. And even when you might feel like your hair is drying pretty good on the outside, water could be lingering on the inside. Now, I think CurlyNuGrowth has an awesome video talking about some of the possible consequences of air drying your locks. And I'll make sure I put that in the cards as well as in the description box. But, the possibility of getting mold or bacterial or any type of fungal growth in your locks is a nightmare. You don't want to do that. Your locks will be smelly. If it spreads enough, you might even have to cut off your locks to get rid of it. And so just understanding that while it's not saying you can't air dry at all, you're really going to have to make sure that you take the time to get the water out of your hair. And if you air dry for a little bit, at some point you may need to add in blow drying, a hooded dryer or something to just make sure you get that last little bit out. So I can totally respect the fact that nobody wants to be under the dryer 2 hours. Me. But if you air dry for part of that time and then, you know, blow dry or sit in the dryer for the rest of the time, you'll decrease your chances of dealing with something nasty like that, okay? Now, the fifth thing is just limited product use. And this kind of ties in with the buildup thing. Really, part of the hardest part for me was embracing the fact that with my locks, products were not going to be as big of a role. It's more your method, the way that you are moisturizing your hair and doing these different things that you need to do. The length of time you let your hair set for styling, that had more of a role than the products. And so I had to accept that to decrease my chances of buildup. The other reason, though, that the product use is very limited for locks is because we don't really have a giant market of products available for locks, like specifically designed for them. Yes, there's Dr. Locs, and that's, seems like a great one from what I've been watching on Keisha Charmaine's channel. But when you compare that to the breadth of products available for relaxed hair and loose natural hair, we just don't have that. Now, I do remember when I first went natural, there wasn't even all those products, right? So over time, the hair companies have started to cater to people with loose natural hair. And I'm optimistic that maybe one day things like that can happen for locks, but it may not, because locks are not really even beginning to be accepted as much in society. For some people, yes, but when it comes to the hair companies, they haven't started catering to that yet. So just understanding that there's not really a lot of products specifically designed for locks. And if you kind of jump onto the bandwagon of trying to use everything that's good for loose natural hair, not all of that is going to kind of translate over in a way that's not going to create problems for you. So just be aware of that, and that we need to kind of change the way we look at it as we progress into having locks. It doesn't have to be complicated, okay? Now, the last thing we're looking at is maintenance. And so this might some people may disagree, but when I first started my lock journey, I knew that I had to kind of have a pretty, not super strict schedule, but I needed to retwist on a regular basis, because I knew I was starting my locks, and if I wanted to maintain them so that they would, kind of fall into the structure and, the shape that they needed to be for my lock journey, I had to kind of stick with it. So about every 4 weeks was what I stuck with, especially during my first and really kind of second year. And for me, sometimes I would get frustrated, and it would put me back into that mindset of when I had a relaxer and I had to go every 6 to 8, well, 6, because it's 6 weeks, maybe 5 sometimes. It put me back into that mindset, and for some of you, it might, if you have sister locks, if you interlock your hair, and even if you're just getting yours maintained at a salon or whatever, you have to do it, especially early on, and even continuing for sister locks and interlocking. Now, I will say that long term, if you palm roll your hair, you will have more flexibility and freedom, if you want to just freeform altogether. And you can even do that from the very beginning. But I knew what I wanted my locks to look like, and I just knew that freeforming from the jump, I wasn't going to get there with that, right? So, it's all up to you. Your journey will affect the way that things happen for you, and it may make these downsides more or less likely to happen. But I want you to be aware of it, because like I said, I try to give you the good, bad, the ugly, my part, and everything that I deal with. And I really hope that knowing these and weighing everything out, that you make the best decision for your hair, whether it's locks, loose natural for a little bit, or you decide to get a relaxer. I hope that you make the best choice for you in your life, okay? So once again, guys, I want to thank you all so much for joining me today on another video. And like I said at the beginning, if you have time, please feel free to drop a comment talking about maybe some of your downsides or things that you've noticed about the lock journey, as well as subscribe to my channel. That way you can stay tuned for more videos, okay? There's also a little alarm bell beside the button once you subscribe. If you click that, it'll actually send you a notification that I posted a video. But even if not, every Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday, sometimes it's a little bit later just because of my work schedule, you will have a video that day though, okay? So once again, thanks so much, and I will catch you in the next one, okay, guys? Bye.